All right, so I'm Stephen Rabinowitz, and in honor of this being our baseball show, I found some weird stats that you never knew about. This is all related to New York baseball, by the way. So number five, top five list here. Number five, Madison Bumgarner hit more grand slams in 2014 than Derek Jeter hit in his entire career. Love
Wow.
that stat. Number four is probably a stat y'all know already, but I'll say it anyway. Derek Jeter's final home game in his career was the only time he ever played in a home game where his team was eliminated from playoff
That's right.
position. Love
I
it.
knew that.
Number three, Sandy Koufax never allowed a grand slam in his entire career.
Really?
Yep. Number two, Aubrey Huff has more career doubles than Mickey Mantle. That's actually more of a sad stat. Also shows probably how much doubles meant back in the day. Number one, and Anthony, I hate to say it, this is the New York edition. The New York Mets have never had an MVP in their entire history.
It's true.
That is true.
Sad but true.
We've had MVP candidates, but I don't know. I can't even tell you if anyone finished in the top five in our team history. I know.
I'm sure someone has. I'm sure like a Mike
Someone
Piazza has.
We can
maybe
anyway.
Piazza. Yeah,
Anyway,
maybe Strawberry Piazza.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking.
I can look that up at any time, but matter of fact, I'll just introduce myself, make it better. I'm Steve Rabinowitz.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Anthony Strait.
This is the On the Sports Lines MLB All-Star Break Edition. While the world of baseball has congregated to Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas this week for all the All-Star festivities, the world of baseball always has a ton of eyes on New York, and why wouldn't they? Both teams were in wild card position. As of this taping, of course, we'll see what happens in the future. We'll talk Yankees, Mets, then all of baseball's highs and lows in this past 3 months and change of America's pastime, play ball, but no national anthem because we know how much trouble that's been this week in any way, shape, or form. All right. So we're going to get straight to it. Market correction is a stock market term that has no accepted universal definition. I looked it up. Don't correct me. But we're going to use it today, class, in two different definitions. So listen up. We'll start with the Yankees. The residents of the house that Jeter built started the season red hot, 50-22 through their first 72 games. Next 26 games, though, here's your market correction. They went 8-18. Now they're at 58-40. Too many numbers. I understand. I'm almost done. They're in wild card number one with 64 games to go. The Yankees want to get back to that 100 win pace that they had not too long ago and get themselves another division title. Maybe not have to go through a wild card series. That'd be nice. So Let's look back. Jay, you've had a rough week, so we gave you the easiest. We had the easiest thing possible. Said pick a Yankees MVP, and it's about as simple that a 3-year-old can tell me the words Aaron Judge.
Yeah, you know, the captain is the captain obvious pick here. It's undeniable, and the numbers do not lie any which way you slice them. Let's start with this. Only 3 Yankees have ever had 80-plus RBI before the start of July. Babe Ruth, 1926, Lou Gehrig in 27 and 30, and Judge this year. Judge's 34 home runs before the All-Star break are a franchise record. But wait, there's more, so much more. Now, other than Juan Soto, who's 295, 426, 558 slash line with a 985 OPS, 23 homers, and 66 RBIs aside, and he's the only other player worthy of first-half MVP votes, no other Yankee who qualifies for the batting title is hitting higher than 246, has an OBP higher than 309, and is slugging higher than 492. The average in slugging belonged to Giancarlo Stanton, and he's been on the IL since June 22nd. Stanton is also the only other Yankee with an OPS above 700 at 795, and he and Alex Verdugo are the only other Yankees with more than 40 RBI. Each have 45. They're also the only other Yankees in double figures in home runs. Stanton with 18, Verdugo with 10. Now, we talked on our last baseball show, which was around the 1/3 mark, about Judge's slow start to the season, and I gave all the worrywart hand-wringers what for. Here's the month-by-month numbers for Judge. March and April, 207, 340, 414 slash line, 754 OPS, 6 homers, 18 RBI. Then in May, 361, 479, 918. That's a 1397 OPS. He had 14 homers and 27 RBI in the month and was named AL Player of the Month of May. June, he hit 409, was on base 514, slugged 864. That's 1387 for an OPS with 11 bombs, 37 driven in. And he was, again, the AL Player of the Month. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rabbi, but both he and Bryce Harper were back-to-back Players of the Month for May and June, which I believe is the first time that's happened in both leagues in like forever and a day. July, 238, 407, 476 slash line with an 84 OPS, 3 homers, all of them solo shots, 3 RBI. Yeah, he struggled so far in July, like the rest of the team, but it has not changed his place atop just about every AL and MLB leaderboard. Check out the numbers, traditional and next gen. His 3 in the American League. His 34 homers leads all of baseball. His 85 RBI lead all of baseball. His 233 extra base hits, his 433 on base percentage, his 679 slugging percentage, his 1.112 OPS, his 207 OPS plus, his 207 weighted runs created plus, and his Baseball Reference WAR of 6.4. To say that the Yankees go as Judge goes isn't hyperbole. Look at his numbers in Yankees wins versus Yankees losses. In the losses, 190, 327, 409 slash line for a 736 OPS, 9 homers, 20 RBI, 12 extra base hits, 14 runs scored. In their wins, his slash line is 384, 500 on base, 859 slugging, 1359 OPS with 25 homers, 65 RBI, 47 extra base hits, and 59 runs scored. His 2024 per 162 numbers are pretty much on pace with his record-setting 2022 MVP season. If it all shakes out, it works out to 57 homers, 143 RBI, 123 runs scored, 122 first half AL MVP, and if he keeps this up, he could be the full season AL MVP.
And he could also be a triple crown winner, which is something that is a very rare thing to say, and haven't seen it too many times. By the way, to piggyback off your set, never happened to have back-to-back Players of the Month in both leagues. So forever
Players
in a day,
of the Month, the same in both.
Yeah, in both leagues. So so forever in a day is never and a day. Is according to MLB communications. And why would they lie to you? They have no reason to. They're just a Twitter account. Anyway, Anthony.
They take every opportunity to boast about records, so they wouldn't lie.
I mean, yes, no matter what record it is. Like I've always said, you can find a record anywhere. You just have to try and look. Anthony, a lot tougher to actually pick an LVP on this team, especially after a bad stretch / market correction that they've had.
Well, yeah, you look at the Yankees, they've had a couple of issues, particularly in the infield, the corner positions, where I talked about Gleyber Torres, Anthony Rizzo, a couple of shows prior to with their struggles. But I think obviously the LVP on this one is partly due to injury, but you got to give it to DJ LeMay. And you realize this is a 2-time batting champion, and obviously won batting titles in both leagues, the National League for Colorado and the American League as a member of the Yankees. But there was obviously, you talked about who was going to be the leadoff guy during our spring training show, and DJ LeMay, who was one of the guys that kind of came up as a candidate, and clearly when he batted leadoff in the past, he's been kind of the catalyst to explosive Yankee offense, obviously him getting on base. But that didn't happen. Obviously, he fouled the ball off his foot. That injury kind of kept him out pretty much the rest of the spring training. And for almost 2 months, he didn't make his debut till May 28th of this year. And since then, he's really struggled. He's only batted 188 since he's been in the lineup. No home runs, so just 11 RBIs and .497 on play percentage. But it's also, too, we look at his strikeout and the walk rate, they're pretty reasonable for a contact guy like LeMahieu. His weighted runs created plus of 52 indicates he's performing 48% below the league average hitter. So it's all So, and I gotta thank the Athletics for that one. And yes, Rabbi, I do have a subscription just like you guys, so I want to keep up with everything. But yeah, that makes him a significant liability in the lineup. Now, when you look at his ground ball rate is a career high of 57.7%. And again, a contact hitter, you hit a lot of ground balls, that could be a bit of an issue. The Yankees at third base has had a bit of a problem. Oswald Cabrera was filling in at that position, and he has had his struggles as well. And I want to get your guys' opinions on this, as you're the resident Yankee fans here. Chris Kirschner of The Athletic actually suggested a trade for Matt Chapman of the San Francisco Giants.
Yankee fan actually asked me about that trade today.
And I wanted to know, and I hesitate. The Giants are only a few games out of the final wildcard spot, which is being held by the Mets going into the All-Star break. And Chapman has said he would opt out after the end of the season, test free agency again. So, Jay, Rabbi, I want to know, if you're a Cashman, would you try to make this move, or would you just make you maybe more of a utility guy than an everyday part of the lineup?
Rabbi, since you have the trade deadline strategy part of this segment, I'm going to weigh in here because I have a feeling you've probably taken some of that into account in your angle. So I'll let you touch on it when it's your turn. Here's the thing. I think Chapman, it would be an upgrade defensively at third base. We know he's good with the leather. We know he's got good pop. Solid hitter. He's got a proven track record. I think even with his struggles this year, he'd still be an upgrade at the hot corner compared to LeMahieu, who can't get off the interstate or above the Mendoza line. Pick your under 200 batting average, metaphor here. So if I could make that deal, and I don't think they would have to give up the farm to, no pun intended, to get him. And if the deal makes sense and they don't have to give away their tier 1 prospects, yeah, I'd make the trade.
I think the one problem is Anthony once again takes one of my answers to this question. Appreciate you. I would honestly say yes, I agree. I think anything would be an upgrade. However, you have to kind of look, as I want to get into my part of the angle now. I think the one thing that we've noticed about the Yankees over the last month is the holes are just virtually everywhere on this team right now. They're not gaping, but there's small holes that kind of need to be plugged in. Chapman is a great choice. You've said the numbers. However, expensive. He has still a ton of money left on his contract. I believe it's 3 years, $54 million. So it's really a question of how much you want to take. And the question really comes to, what's the biggest problem? That's one hole in what is right now a lineup that is full of them. And so it's not really a question of would it be an upgrade? Of course, it would 100% be an upgrade, but
it's a low bar.
It is a low bar, but the problem is, how much of an upgrade will that do the entire lineup? You get another hitter, that's perfectly fine, but if you can tell me, you said the stat right there, the only two people who have at least semi-consistently hit are those two people that you just mentioned there, Judge and Soto. Volpe has kind of gone down over the last month, and once Stanton comes, the team has suffered without Stanton because there are no threats in this lineup. Once you get to that, you have to figure out whose turn it is to get into really a hot streak, because none of these players on this team right now are consistent. So here are the two names I want to mention. Now, they're both pitchers, and I'll go with the easy one first that I noticed. The White Sox are going to be basically having a garage sale. Everything must go. You can get it at a discount price. Hopefully, you could also get a $5 board game on the way out that you could also include.
Rabbi, I think it's more of a fire sale because they're looking to burn it all down.
Oh no, they'll do the fire sale afterwards, but it's more of a thing that they're going to just nothing is going to really be needed.
Well played.
So the question is, I think Michael Kopech would be a good choice for the Chicago White Sox. He's a flamethrower good person to have into the bullpen. I know the Clay Holmes experience. Clay Holmes was an all-star this year. A lot of people were questioning why, and after Sunday's
So was
game against
he.
Baltimore,
He even questioned why
yes,
he was included.
Yes, he did, and it was the only other Yankee outside of Judge and Soto. So that's a need that they possibly can have. Just continue to bolster a bullpen. But the reason why that bullpen it needs to be bolstered, is the fact that the once pretty consistent pitching staff is all question marks right now. I think the only time Garrett Cole has really had good outings is against Baltimore, which is, by the way, the best time to have an outing. Luis Hill has been fine. He is not what he was at the beginning of the season, but he's about
two really good starts after that 3-game stretch. So maybe he's turned a corner. We'll see.
He might have turned a corner, but you still also have to remember the fact is that number is going to get pretty high in terms of innings pitched by the end of the year. And it's not a question of anymore of should he, it's a question of he needs to in this case. Marcus Stroman is a good hand, but we've seen his limitations so far. Mm-hmm. And we can all get to the Carlos Rodon experience and do it in many different words. But, I mean, he had a fine outing on Sunday. It's not what you want for a guy who is making the ton of money that he currently is. I know, Jay, we've discussed this before. I don't think he's an LVP candidate, but he's certainly not supposed to be the number 4 pitcher on your staff where he is. So, so here's the thing. I know this is a big time ask, but there is rumors that people are asking about Tariq Skubal from Detroit. Gonna take all-star and probably the best Cy Young favorite right now in the AL this year. His numbers are insane. Gonna take a lot for him. And I think there was an article that I just read out there. It's from a thing called Heavy on Yankees, so I'm not sure how much I'll take it, but that's probably who it is. And I think also Ken Rosenthal has mentioned this too in a couple of articles. That's the only person who you would take the number 2 prospect of the organization, Spencer Jones, and trade for him. The reason why Jones would be expendable is because the number 1 prospect of the organization is Jason Dominguez, and he plays the same position, outfield, as Jones does. And I think if the Yankees are kind of talking to themselves, they kind of want to keep a Judge, Soto, and Dominguez outfield as kind of the possible core going forward. So, but again, Jones is big money, and you're going to need the biggest money possible to trade for him. But again, as I said before, there's so many holes in this team. You got to figure out, I think, what is the cheapest hole to fill first. And I think the cheapest hole to fill is the bullpen.
Yeah.
Then you worry about what upgrades you can make in the lineup. And some of them might be needed by injury. Anthony Rizzo will come back eventually,
but will he have a job?
I think he will have some sort of job, because I think they're gonna find a way to shoehorn him in the lineup, because again, you need to take everything and throw it to a wall. Again, by the way, a team that's 1 game back right now of the AL East lead and what would get them a wild card spot, not a bad spot to have. About 15 to 20 questions right now that have come out of this team in the last month. And I think that's it. If no one has any other objections. No objections?
Is that Clay's not a strikeout pitcher. And this is a facet of this bullpen that is lacking. You see what happens when Clay Holmes, who is more likely to pitch, he's looking to pitch to soft contact. The problem with pitching to soft contact is once the ball's been connected with by a bat, you lose any sense of control of where that ball's going. Bases in the 9th, and he could not close out that game after Ben Rice, had some heroics, give us the lead in the top half of the 9th. And just like in Boston, when we really need a win, those are 2 games that the Yankees are going to regret not closing out. if something happens come down the end of the season. They need to get someone who can get swings and misses in the bullpen. So that's got to be the primary thing, your skill set you're looking for in any reliever you go after. It'll be interesting to see. As far as the lineup goes, I think Rice is kind of has been a good addition. Austin Wells was starting to heat up prior to the All-Star break, but you need your veterans to, get out of there, to get back on track. You need Verdugo to start hitting again. You need Stanton to be who he was before he got injured. And if past his prologue, he has not been the same returning from injury. We'll see if he changes that, he bucks that trend this time. There's a lot of things that could go right with once guys come back, but yeah, if they can get hold of somebody who can actually strike guys out coming out of that bullpen, that would be beautiful.
Yeah. But the Yankees as a whole that afternoon did not look like the same team that was kind of tearing through Major League Baseball break. As a whole, maybe a good thing for a team that has stumbled quite a bit the last several weeks. I mean, you talked about the bullpen, and just not having that strikeout guy. When you're playing at home in Yankee Stadium and your pitcher that pitches the contact, you're always playing with fire because Yankee Stadium is just a home run launcher pad regardless. But then at the same time, when your defense will let you down, you're putting guys on base because you're not fighting the strike zone. You're just compounding the issue. And the Yankees, they gotta get a guy who can get outs 1, 2, 3. No matter what, regardless, you don't need the perfect strikeout guy, but you gotta get somebody who can make the perfect strikeout pitch with 2 strikes, or at least induce a soft contact at bat. Because right now,
soft contact's gotten the Yankees in trouble, and they need guys who can get swings and misses. Saves in key opportunities where the Yankees could close out a series, and they lost both opportunities.
Yeah, and the offense is not going to out-hit everybody. And Ben Rice has been a great addition to this lineup. But I think the Yankees got a gem on their hands. If he continues
I've seen a lot of these before.
Ant, I hear what you're saying, and I hope you're right, because I like this kid too, but I'll throw out 2 names at you as cautionary tales: Shane Spencer and Kevin Moss. Just saying. Saying.
By the way, Greg Bird says hello, by the way.
There you go. There's
from an actual, younger generation of people.
There you go. If you want a specific first base comparison.
Yeah, Greg. Although the fact that Ben Rice has catcher eligibility does, I think, loom huge for the future.
Yeah, I like the fact it gives them an emergency third catcher who can actually play catcher.
And again, there's a lot of flexibility that this team is going to need, especially with the hitting that they have. All right.
Yep.
I want to move on to the New York Mets. For the New York Mets, a rough 22-33 stretch to start the season led into the very end of May. And unlike previous Mets seasons, June was a gem. There is now a 27-13 stretch that came, and it leads us now to a little mix of Grimace, Candelita, and some dog named Glizzy Iggy. And now a rant. This dog Freckles over here is my baby, and I would like to say that this could be Glizzy Iggy very simple. This dog eats whatever is on the floor. This dog can easily take down a hot dog in 2.2 seconds. Glizzy Iggy, eat your heart out. Glizzy Freckles is here to take your job. I do not care if I am not a big-time Met fan. Glizzy Iggy is going to make me money. Aren't you, Freckles? All right. Talk to you later, Glizzy Freckles. All right. Moving on to the rest of this stuff.
Please.
Talk about the Mets are currently occupying wild card number 3 right now, and the second half, oh my God, might actually be a good way to get through the
OMG.
OMG. This second half might actually be worth something. And so, Anthony, no, we're not going to talk about that guy as the MVP of the team. Although, to be fair, definitely should get votes in my opinion. That's just me. But we've seen a lot of good performances, especially in June. But the biggest one of them all for you is Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, the thing too is I was talking to a few people at work, and I actually told them I think Pete Alonso was an all-star this year, and I like Pete Alonso. I hope he stays the Mets long term.
By the
But I
way,
don't think he is
nice
really
to
having
see
an
again. I don't
MVP.
even think he thinks he's an all-star at this point.
Yeah, I think I would have taken Francisco Lindor or Nimmo over
Yeah.
Pete Alonso if you had to fill that Met representative checkbox.
Mhm.
But Brandon Nimmo has been obviously he's been the lifer, the Met lifer, and earlier this year got like the rest of this lineup got to a slow start. The hard contact was there. He just unfortunately had the bad luck of hitting them to where opposing fielders were actually standing, so it didn't make much. But things picked up along. He leads the team with 62 RBIs, which shows he's a clutch hitter. A couple of days ago, bases clearing double in one of the Mets victories over the weekend against the Colorado Rockies. He has 15 home runs as well. He's on pace for a career best 29 home runs. On base percentage, batting average, slightly below his career average, but his other numbers on par with the norms are better. 8.26 on play percentage, ninth among outfielders. 1.39 OPS actually leads the Mets in the first half of the season. And here's a thing that I found on Major League Baseball, MLB.com. For most of the past 8 seasons, Brandon Nimmo has been one of the more reliable and productive players in the majors. And by Fangraphs version of winner ball replacement, Nimmo, since 2018, his average when he focuses the majors, is ranked 8th among outfielders. It's in that stretch. And today, and this season, he's actually third behind Christian Yelich and George Springer, remaining outfielder since that time. But here's the thing: he's been the quintessential the gamer. He's played multiple positions in the outfield. He started in center field. He's played in left field as well. And obviously, with Stolen Monte's injury, that versatility comes in very much handy. But also, a little credit has to go to Carlos Mendoza and switching the lineup up a little bit. Obviously, at the beginning, Nimmo was kind of the leadoff guy, but now he basically switched him and Francisco Lindor basically 1-2, and the Mets lineup kind of took off. Lindor is now a guy who has completely turned this season around after another slow start. And obviously, the question, he could have been all-star as well. But since Brandon Nimmo took the number 2 position, he's batting 344 with 9 homers and now 43 RBIs. I forgot to update my stats a little bit. But 43 RBIs. And also, here's another key gem why he gets my MVP for the first half. Anytime you have a teammate paying for dinner and looking out for the guys in the locker room, come on, you get an A in that book. And honestly, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, they're both kind of taking on leadership roles on this team, which has been a big deal. Remember last year, there was 2023, obviously, there was so many questions. There was stories about the locker room and the leadership and the veteran guys. And this year, you got Lindor and Nimmo treating the team out to dinner. And, well, they both got good contracts, so they can pay for it. But it shows that Nimmo in his was now 9th season overall in Major League Baseball service.
Longest tenured Met, if I'm correct.
Yeah, the longest tenure Met. Taking on a leadership role that I think a lot of people wasn't really expecting. Obviously, you look at guys like Alonso, JD Martinez. Obviously, been a big addition. His veteran leadership as well. But also, like I said, the pitching has been surprisingly decent enough to keep the Mets in games. But Brandon Nimmo has always been kind of the engine of this team when it isn't getting clutch hit or making the occasional web gem in the outfield. It's little things like sprinting to first base on a walk. I mean, that is something that It's very uncharacteristic, but it shows the character of Brandon Nimmo brings to this team, not just on the field in the locker room. So he definitely gets my Mets MVP in the first half.
Worthy.
Jeff McNeil though, Jay, not worthy. LVP for
No.
sure right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting when someone I pick either as a player or pitcher to watch or put under the microscope coming into the season has a first half that has them winding up here as well, whether it's the MVP or the LVP. Jeff McNeil was my hitter under the microscope coming into the season, and legitimately so based on his Jekyll and Hyde 2023 season. And what he's done at the plate, or rather has not done so far this season, made it easy for him to wind up here as the Mets' least valuable player of the first half. Now, here's what I said back on our MLB preview show about McNeil. This is McNeil's 2023 for the Mets 75 win team. 270, 333, 378 slash line with 10 homers, 55 RBI, a 711 OPS, 96 OPS plus, 100 weighted runs created plus. That last pair of advanced batting stats indicating that he was barely an MLB average level hitter. Not great, especially compared to 2022, which, as you guys remember, when he won the National League batting title, but not awful until you split his season into pre and post All-Star break. And then an interesting picture emerges. First half last year, 253, 331, 328 slash line, 659 OPS, 3 homers, 26 RBI. Second half, 291, 337, 438 slash line, 775 OPS, 7 homers, 29 RBI. A little aside here, guys, considering how bad his season has been, the Mets would take either one of those stat lines right about now. As I said on the preview show, McNeil had platelet-rich plasma injections to avoid surgery over the winter and reported to spring trainings feeling reasonably good before the Mets shut him down from hitting earlier. That would in the month that would have been, in spring training due to soreness in his left biceps during a batting cage session. The Mets held him out of Grapefruit League games until the last week of the exhibition season while he worked through that soreness, which was not related to his UCL injury from last year. The Mets are, and here's my last thing, and this leads into everything else. The Mets are hopeful that despite the lack of exhibition game at bats, he only got 13 and didn't get a hit. He'll be ready to go for opening day. Yeah, well, his start to the season was slow, and the case could be made that it was due to not getting enough Grapefruit League at bats, but it's only gotten worse as the season's first half has progressed. The numbers, basic counting, advanced next gen, what have you, do not lie. March and April, 247, 330, 340 slash line, 670 OPS, 1 homer, 7 RBIs, 6 extra base hits, 33 total bases, and that's the high water mark, guys. In May, 202, 262, 303 slash line, 565 OPS, 2 homers, 7 RBI, 6 extra base hits, 30 total bases. June fell under the Mendoza line at 194 with 215 OBP, 258 slugging. That's a 474 OPS, 1 homer, 5 RBI, 2 extra base hits, 16 total bases. July, 211, 268, 368 slash line, 637 OPS, 1 homer, 5 RBI, 4 extra base hits, 14 total bases. Add it all up, that's a 216, 276, 314 slash line. That's a 591 OPS, 5 homers, 24 RBI, just 19 extra base hits, 93 total bases. His baseball reference wins above replacement mark is negative 0.3. His OPS plus is 71. His weighted runs created plus 73. Those last two stats means he's producing at a level barely more than 30% less than the average Major League Baseball hitter. Get even more granular. In high leverage situations, 140, 246, 211. That's a 457 OPS, 1 homer, 5 RBI, 2 total extra base hits, 12 total bases. Runners in scoring position, 222, 333, 397. 730 OPS, 2 homer, 20 RBI, 7 extra base hits, 25 total bases. Late and close. And now late and close is defined as plate appearances in the 7th inning or later with the team at bat. Top run is at least on deck. In those situations, 143, 226, 232 slash extra base hits, 13 total bases. There is a reason that veteran infielder and music sensation Jose Iglesias has pretty much taken over as the regular second baseman. McNeil isn't even playable in a platoon situation right now, as his numbers against right-handed pitching as a left-handed hitter are just awful. In 79 games against right-handed pitching across 232 plate appearances and 210 at-bats, 205, 273, 314 slash line, 587 OPS, 4 homers, 17 RBI, 15 extra base hits, 66 total bases. As Anthony's Yankees least valuable player can attest, going from being a recent batting champ to first half LVP is a sharp drop. If anyone needs a break from the game right now, it is Jeff McNeil.
Now, for my trade deadline talk, I would like to make a public service announcement. The New York Mets are actually a very improving team this year, but you need to help them out and find a way to fix this massively disastrous bullpen. Yes, there is no secret what the problem of this team is currently.
Nope.
It is a way that this team has been pretty bad. The Mets entered this season with 6 trustworthy relievers: Jorge Lopez, Brooks Raley, Drew Smith, Edwin Diaz, Adam Ottavino, and Jake Diekman. The first one was designated for assignment. That's Lopez. The second 2, Raley and Smith, are out for the year. The other 3 are meh. Adam Ottavino and Diekman have been okay, but have been bad at spots. And Edwin Diaz has kind of been a roller coaster ride when he's not suspended for 10 games for issues with sticky stuff. Yes, even Sean Reed-Foley, who is their probably most reliable option, is right now on the IL, might be back after the All-Star break. The biggest problem of this thing was this whole issue was July 8th, when Christian Scott, starting pitcher, was a rookie, was taken out in a 2-2 game after just 77 pitches. The bullpen then coughed up 6 runs and the Mets lost 8-2. This is a time when you have to realize that the bullpen needed to lift the team up, and instead they weighed them like an anchor down on the Titanic. Yeah, the New York Mets are just dreadful in the bullpen. There's no real way to say this. They are 20th in the majors with a 4.2 bullpen ERA, but even that does not tell any of the story. Since June 23rd, New York is dead last in baseball with a 7.17 ERA. Some of the Mets bullpen ranks. The 7.17 ERA, these are all since June 23rd. The 7.17 ERA, 30th. 30 walks, that's 20th. 56 runs allowed, that's 30th. 4 blown saves, that's 24th. 16 home runs, 30th again. 72 Ks, that's 15. They've had to deploy Edwin Diaz, only 10 saves, 4.05 ERA, 37 strikeouts, 26.2 innings pitched. You weren't going to get the Narcos Timmy Trumpet Diaz for 2022, but you would like to have a little bit better in 2024. Jake Diekman, 5.53 ERA, 33 Ks, 22 walks. Adam Ottavino, 4.89 ERA, 47 Ks, 13 walks, and 35 innings pitched. And then Reed Garrett has been pretty good. He is on the IL right now, 3.64 ERA, 63 Ks, and 22 walks, and 42 innings pitched. But he made the stupidest decision in this whole entire year that is simply unforgivable. In the game, in the second Subway Series game, I believe it was the second, maybe the first, I'm not sure, against the New York Yankees, in a 4-run game with the bases loaded, in a, may I add to you, 0-2 counts, he basically gave Judge the definition of a please hit me over the wall pitch. I said it at that moment. It was the dumbest decision I've ever seen a pitcher make. And in the words of Jay, needed to be fired due to culpable negligence because you literally cannot do that. No. And he is one of their better relief pitchers, may I add.
As plenty of baseball pundit has said this season, why is anyone throwing Aaron Judge a strike?
The fact that with that lineup that they even give Aaron Judge as many chances as he does is kind of ridiculous, but that's besides the point. I don't want to go away from here. It doesn't matter who they trade for. Just find arm after arm after arm and get that bullpen ready to go, because this Mets team is in a pretty good position now. But if they had a bullpen that could have been doing their job since mid-June, They might be even in an even better position, and they probably could be better than Atlanta right now, who, by the way, they start a series with this weekend. It is a huge series. And Anthony, that Atlanta Mets, if the Mets can get that first wild card, which I don't think is out of reach considering the mediocrity of the NL this year, this Mets team could have a decent postseason. In fact, the fact that they could have a postseason is kind of surprising, just considering how they slipped out of the game.
Well, you think about this. The Mets started out with losing the first 5-6 games, and then they had the dreadful stretch where they had lost 10 or 15 at one point. But this is a team that the fact that they're even sitting in a wild card spot at the All-Star break is kind of anything short of a minor miracle. But yes, Francisco Alvarez coming back for the Mets, not just as a hitter but as a catcher, has been big because his ability to just be able to call games is probably one of the more overlooked qualities of his game in his second season in the majors. But I don't think even he had any idea what this bullpen, how bad this bullpen has really been. Let me tell you, when I've been to a lot of Met games this season, whenever, and this is true, whenever Adam Ottavino enters the game, you just hear a collective a groan around City Field because it's almost like, okay, we're gonna have at least one or two guys on and praying Ottavino get pitched out of a jam that he eventually gets the team into because he can't find a strike zone. But yeah, I mean, the bullpen as a whole has been a collective clusterfuck, is a nice way of saying it. And this
the nice way is Charlie Foxtrot, Anthony. You said it the actual way.
Still the nice way.
At the back end of it. And obviously, you kind of knew he was not going to be the 2020. But even early on, even he had his struggles. And you think about the games that the Mets would get away in part because of a bullpen that couldn't get out when they needed to. They would be in a better position. But yeah, it's a big weekend series against Atlanta. Well, the Mets have not felt well the last couple of years. I think they're this tailspin last year started in Atlanta. And of course, 2022, that last weekend of the season, getting swept down in Atlanta.
Well, we'll see what happens, but that's still got a long way to go on that.
Well, if the Mets are going to do anything in the second half of the season, they're going to have to overcome the recent ghosts of midseason past, present, and future, because it seems like everything goes through the Atlanta Braves and it goes through with Truist Park now. And the Mets are going to have to at least try to take 2 out of 3 to really get the momentum going, because they got sure the Yankees are looking for a little payback. I mean, we seen this a couple years ago, the Mets sweeping the first 2 in City Field, and the Yankees kind of returning the favor when the Chiefs took it to the Bronx. So the Mets gotta get 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. A Braves team that's really kind of been going backwards. I mean, they've had their injuries on their end as well.
Well, I actually want to touch on that when we get to the next section, because that was kind of leading to my point. All right. We're going to go. By the way, something that I realized.
Trade deadline strategy for the Mets?
I just literally said the trade deadline strategy for the Mets. Get bullpen out.
You kind of froze for a second.
I literally said the trade deadline strategy, unless you weren't paying attention to the last 15 minutes of this show.
Froze for
anyway, and that's fine. Okay. By the way, remember Jorge Lopez on the Mets?
Yeah, that guy.
Literally,
I talked about him on the last baseball show, even though he had already been PFA'd.
Apparently the worst team in baseball, and they're in a wild card spot. Baseball. Anyway, let's go around the MLB now, starting with the good. When you get that report card and you see the words exceeding expectations, it means you're doing amazing in school, or you were never expected to do good in school and begin with, and they just said, screw it, you're kind of all right. Let's put in exceeding expectations on it and move on. So let's reward or acknowledge that here by mentioning a pitcher, a hitter, and a team exceeding their expectations. And Jay, you get the All-Star Game MVP in the category of exceeding expectations on the hitter side.
Yeah. Now, I just want to, preface this by saying I had written up my entire Jaren Duran angle by Monday night. So everything that I had written down, I had done and was in place prior to his All-Star game heroics. So I will have a PS at the end of my my stuff here. So it doesn't get any simpler than this, and it's why Duran got his first All-Star nod. He's already far exceeded last year's production, and we still have half a season to go. So let's look at that 2023. 102 games across 362 plate appearances and 332 at bats. He had a 295, 346, 482 slash line. It's an 828 OPS, 121 OPS plus, 120 weighted runs created plus, 8 homers, 40 RBI, 46 runs scored. Stole 24 bases, had 44 extra base hits, 162 total bases, and his WAR was 2.1. Interestingly enough, despite a pretty decent 2023 season, based on OPS plus and weighted runs created plus, he was about 20% more productive than the average major league hitter. That season was cut short in August due to toe surgery, and despite all that, Fangraphs ZiPS production model only had him as follows for this year: 255, 313, 424 slash line, 738 OPS, 95 weighted runs created plus, 11 homers, 54 RBI, 60 runs scored, 21 steals, 42 extra base hits, 176 total bases, and a 1.6 WAR. Man, is he blasted right through those projected numbers. So far this year, in 95 games, 439 plate appearances, 398 at bats. His slash line, 284, 342, 477. That's an 820 OPS. His OPS plus is 125. His weighted runs created plus is 123. He already has 10 home runs, already has 41 RBIs. He's already scored 62 runs, already has 22 steals, already has 47 extra base hits. He leads Major League Baseball in doubles with 27, in triples with 10, and he is 4th overall in the American League in extra base hits behind Aaron Judge, Gunnar Henderson, and Bobby Witt Jr. He has 190 total bases, and his WAR is 5.1. Duran has started every game for the Red Sox so far this season, and all but one in the leadoff spot. And he is determined to play all 162 games. His durability has been key to Boston's success all season, particularly during their stretch in April and May when it seemed like everyone was on the injured list. Red Sox manager Alex Cora tried to give Duran a day off on June 22nd, but the kid flat out refused and went out to his usual spot in center field. The 27-year-old, who last season wasn't even on the opening day roster, has really come into his own and become a key part of the Red Sox core alongside fellow AL All-Stars Rafael Devers and Tanner Houck. Now, from a hitting standpoint, Duran's transformation from average player last season to All-Star this season has been huge, but his glove work has improved exponentially as well. He went from losing fly balls in the lights and missing catches to becoming one of the best defensive outfielders in the league between last season and this one. He's top 5 in both defensive runs saved and outs above average so far this season, among AL center fielders, according to Fangraphs. It's clear he has the drive and skill set to play every day, and his all-around consistency has shown through. He has very much exceeded all expectations through the first half of the season, and he's a large part of why the Red Sox are 24-13 since June 1. That's a 105-win pace, as they rebounded from a 12-16 May and now have a 2.5 game lead on the Royals for the AL's #1 wildcard spot. Now, as Rabbi said at the top, kid was named All-Star MVP last night. Here's my postscript to all of this. I gotta love it when a player I pick for a segment does what Duran did at the All-Star game. He smashes a go-ahead 2-run homer 413 feet into the seats above the right field bullpen in the 5th inning to give the American League a 5-3 lead, which turned out to be the final score. He's the 14th Red Sox player to homer at the All-Star game, and it earned him the Crystal Bat as the Ted Williams All-Star Game MVP. He's the 2nd Red Sox player to win the award. J.D. Drew in 2008 was the other, since the league named it for Teddy Ballgame in 2002, the year he died. Here's another link to the splendid splinter for Duran. Both players have hit home runs at the All-Star game at age 27. Williams did it in 1946, his first season back after serving 3 years as a Marine combat pilot in World War II, en route to leading the Red Sox to the American League pennant. How can you not be romantic about baseball?
Absolutely. And by the way, doing all that on the 25th anniversary of Ted Williams' 1999 appearance.
Don't steal my thunder. I got that dialed up for later in the show.
You guys steal my thunder all of the time, so I'm literally going to say portions of this now. By the way, something that I noticed that a lot of players last night, they mentioned on the All-Star Game broadcast, which I tuned into it for a little bit, saying some people have won World Series, but they note that is the moment that they always will remember. And that moment is something that apparently I can't say anymore due to court-appointed saying. Again, my shit is fair game, but everybody else, my panelists, not do anything else.
You gave the previews. I get to run the movie on that particular piece of content.
Might as well walk out halfway through the movie. Anyway, let's now go on to the pitcher category. And Anthony, there's a Philly everywhere you look in this season.
Oh my God, 8 guys, right?
Yeah, 2 days.
And here's one. And you have one of them.
Yeah, 2 days. Number one, I thought it was the American League versus the Philadelphia Phillies at one point. There's like so many guys, Phillies in the All-Star team. And number two, I was just a year old when I realized Blue White Park was artificial surface, because I was watching the game thinking to myself, that is the greatest infield grass I've seen in my life. And I realized it's fake, and I'm just like, okay, no wonder they don't need a water system, dummy. Anyway, one of the guys who was an All-Star but did not play in last night's game, Matt Fried, actually of the Atlanta Braves, was the last-minute substitution. Ranger Suarez has been a pleasant surprise for the Phillies. When you think about the Phillies pitching staff, you think of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola at the and even Taijuan Walker, the former Met, who you would think of as number 3 guy, a steady number 3 for the Phillies team that leads them National League East. 10-4 record going into the All-Star break, 2.76 ERA, 112 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.04. Yes, and he got a torrid start to the season. After his first 10 starts, he was 9-0 with a 1.36 ERA. First pitcher in Major League Baseball with a 9-0 start, and an ERA that low in 58 years. His ERA after 10 starts was also the lowest for a Phillies starter since Grover Cleveland Alexander,
Wow.
Baseball Hall of Famer who started his career in Philadelphia in 1911 and pitched 20 seasons in the majors, winning the pitching triple crown 3 times and finished his career with the Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals, respectively. And each of his first 8 starts, his whip was a 0.72 or less in those 8 starts. So the only pitcher to do that, and it was in baseball's dead ball era. Christy Mathewson in 1901, Addie Jose in 1907, and Mordecai 3. That was like putting up the real and just kind of turning the day, because that's going way back. But on head, and obviously that might have had an effect on his last few starts. 1-3 in his last 4 starts, and also fatigue might be a factor as he is kind of hit the wall. He's only pitched 114 innings a season compared to 125 all of last season. I mentioned Taijuan Walker. Has a guy who's also got out to great first start, but it's kind of worn down as the season progressed. The work demand has gotten more and more. But also another key factor in Suarez' somewhat slump has been back spasms with calls to the missed All-Star game, and his battery mate JT Realmuto being on the disabled list for a couple of weeks. So a number of combinations kind of factor into him kind of coming back down to earth. Suarez maybe not being the historic 10-0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the season, but being more of the. 10 and 0 guy that he was early in the se hoping that he get back to that as the season resumes, because we got this Philly team. Wow, it's going to be really hard to beat this team. Coming out of the National League, I mean, they are probably the most complete team right now in baseball. I mean, and obviously, no disrespect to the Orioles and the Yankees, who may have a few cracks in the armor, but
You
the
think?
Phillies, the Phillies lineup has been pretty good. Trey Turner, even though I don't think he should have been All-Star because he missed a number of games, he's been great at the plate. Like last season, obviously Bryce Harper up in the lineup has been hitting, but the pitching staff has been really good this season. And for once, the bullpen has not been the Achilles heel for the most part. So, I mean, the Phillies are going to be a really tough out, whoever draws them in the postseason.
Indeed.
And that leads me to the surprise team in the Philadelphia Phillies as well. And here's the reason why I picked them. I'm going to go through a process of elimination for you because I don't usually pick a Captain Obvious answer like this.
Yeah, I'm interested in your logic behind this.
Here's my logic on this. Cleveland, I've already talked about. They're
True.
really good. So Minnesota, and I kind of kept the AL Central away from that as well. Minnesota's is usually a steady hand, and Kansas City is kind of exceeding expectations a little bit, although they're falling off. Boston kind of has made a run late, and that would probably be a good pick most of the time, but I picked Philadelphia already, so oh well. West, can't pick anybody there because Seattle is kind of moving back, and Houston was underperforming, and now they're the Houston Death Star that we all know and love, just one game back in the AL East, in the AL West. By the way, if you ask me right now who's going to win the AL, I would not be able to tell you for a second because every team in there has flaws above the man. You could even tell me Houston right now, and I would say, sure, that's the answer. Their streak of ALCSs might continue. Milwaukee's always been a steady hand, and everybody else in the NL just kind of cancels each other out for me because it's still all logged up. So the answer to me, for me, the Philadelphia Phillies, 62-34. Best record in baseball, an 8.5 game lead. It's going to be interesting to see a team like that who has built themselves off of the wild card, being the team that's kind of taken advantage of having the preparedness of already playing series against a unfresh Atlanta team, which is why those last 2 years they've won series in 4 games. You could have a Freaky Friday situation and have it completely reversed this year, and we'll see if Philadelphia can actually be the favorites for once. Now, as mentioned, 8 All-Stars. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm all voted in, by the way. And then 5 pitchers from the starting rotation. Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez didn't play. They're both 10-4, however. Christopher Sanchez is a first-time All-Star. Matt Strahm is a first-time All-Star. And one
Alec
other player, Alec Boehm, I already mentioned, was already voted in, and one other reliever as well in Hoffman.
Wow.
Someone can give it to me at that point. But yeah, the Phillies are really good. I don't think that's too much breaking news on here. They are, let's see, they've won a franchise record 62 games. Their rotation, 3.22 ERA. 11.3 WAR. Bullpen is ranked 3rd, 3.32 ERA. By the way, that was until the A's blew up that shorthanded bullpen. That dropped it actually down to like 13th because they scored 18 runs against them on Sunday. Offense, 4th in runs, 477, 3rd in batting average, on base percentage 331, OPS 755, 6th in home runs, 424 slugging percentage. The defense has 11 outs above average. What else do I want to say? There's just nothing else I can say. This is a team that has played about as good as any team has in a long time in the first half. That might cause a little bit of alarm because, again, the Phillies have actually made a living on being the underdogs in some of these series. So they're going to be the hunted, but as we've seen teams in this decade specifically kind of get their reward as the holy grail at the end of the Indiana Jones adventure that they've taken. 2020, the Dodgers, albeit it was the abbreviated season, got their World Series 2021. The Braves, ironically enough, off an 83 win regular season, or 86, actually 86 win regular season. That's when they made the run to the World Series. And then 2022, the Astros got their World Series after many years of losing in the ALCS and the World Series. The Phillies are just the best team in baseball, and it's kind of not close right now. It almost related to the Boston Celtics right now in the NBA. And last time I checked, the Celtics did hold up a Larry O'Brien trophy at the end.
They did.
Maybe maybe the Phillies will hold up that same sort of trophy in October/November. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting run down the stretch.
And Cincinnati Park in October is becoming one of the more intimidating places you have to play as a opposing former Philly native. I've been around this crowd, this fan base. They just get nutty when they start to go the Phillies' way. And in that stadium, in a band bus, it could be the crowd noise is just overwhelming. But also, if you're the Atlanta Braves, you could beat the Phillies when they were at their weakest the last 2 years. Do you really want to go against this team when they're pretty much a complete team at this point and coming off back-to-back postseason disappointments? That's maybe the motivation for this year. I think the Atlanta Braves is going to have to. I think any team in the National League is going to have to figure out a way to beat this Philly team, and I don't see any weaknesses right now.
Nope.
All right. Speaking of weaknesses, let's talk about not exceeding expectations. No misinterpreting this. If you get this on your report card, kids, hide it from mom and dad immediately. We're scolding the same three categories that we talked about before, boys and girls. So let's start with the hitter, Jay. Once you get paid, you need to produce. And Cody Bellinger got paid, and he ain't producing.
No, and there were plenty. Look at someone like Bellinger, who's coming off an MVP caliber season and is a player a lot of contending teams are coveting as the trade deadline approaches. Multiple teams are said to have contacted the Cubs, who are last in the National League Central at 47-51, but only 3.5 games behind the Mets for the third National League wildcard spot. The 2019 NL MVP is a hot commodity because, due to the fact that he bats left-handed, has 20/20 potential, and can play multiple positions, first base and all three outfield spots. But he's had some issues staying healthy, having only played at least 140 games in a season just once in the last 3. This season is no different, as Bellinger's been on the 10-day injured list since July 11th after being hit in the hand during a recent game against the Orioles, resulting in a fractured left middle finger. His timetable to return is somewhat uncertain, according to the Cubs, though they're anticipating it'll be a matter of weeks rather than a minimum stint on the injured list. According to his manager, Craig Counsell, here's the quote: "I don't really know how long he's going to be out. I'm not sure if he'll be out past July 31st. I wouldn't rule him out playing before then, but he also could be out longer." Now, Bellinger recently stated that his mobility has been mostly unaffected and that he's just waiting on the all clear to play, but it's unlikely that he'll begin his rehab until after the All-Star break, obviously, which would leave less than 2 weeks until the trade deadline. Now, it's possible Bellinger heals quickly, but it's more likely that his injury becomes more about pain tolerance and how much it impacts his game, which is similar to the situation with the fractured ribs he suffered earlier this season. Now, what would teams actually be getting from Bellinger? Well, let's run the numbers, shall we? This is a guy coming off a year where he was top 10 in the National League MVP voting and won the Silver Slugger Award. 130 games played, 556 plate appearances, a tick under 500 at bats. 307, 356, 525 slash lines, 881 OPS, 135 OPS plus. He had 26 homers, drove in 97, scored 95, stole 20, 56 extra base hits, 262 total bases, and a weighted runs created plus of 134. And yet, despite a year like that, where he was basically 35% more productive than the average major league hitter based on OPS and weighted runs created plus, FanGraphs Zips 2024 projection model only had him at this 267, 327, 441 slash line. It's a 769 OPS, 106 weighted runs created plus, 19 homers, 73 RBI, 80 runs scored, 14 steals, 45 extra base hits, 215 total bases. Now, unlike with Duran, they might have actually gotten this one right because so far in 2024, he's not too far off that projection, which is a definitive drop in production from 2023. Here it is. So far in 79 games this year, 344 plate appearances, 312 at-bats. His slash line, 269, 331, 410. That's a 742 OPS. His OPS plus is 107. He's only got 9 homers. He's only driven in 37, scored 39, only 5 steals. He has 25 extra base hits, 128 total bases. His weighted runs creative plus is just 108, which means he's producing barely better than the average major league hitter based on those OPS and weighted runs created plus numbers. His home run rate is down from 4.7 last year to 2.6 this year. That's a career low. His strikeout rate went up from 15.7 last year to 17.2. His line drive rate is a career low, 20.4%. It was 26.4 last year. His extra base hits per hits percentage is another career low at 30%. It was 37% last year. His at-bat, his home runs per at-bat rate was 19.2 last year. This year, it's 34.7. These are all stats that show a drop in production, proof that Bellinger hasn't been driving the ball with the same power he showed last season. However, he remains a solid left-handed hitter who makes pitchers work, puts the ball in play, and gets on base. When healthy, he's a legitimate power threat who can carry a lineup. He's also a plus defensive outfielder and a good base runner, so it's understandable that contenders are calling the Cubs with trade packages. But that key phrase, when healthy, cannot and should not be discounted. His inability to stay off the injured list is a big part of why he's my hitter who is not exceeding expectations so far in 2024.
Yeah, this is not the same team that you would just not the Cubs have just had a lot of ebbs and flows this year. I think a lot was expected with them, especially with the emergence of a manga in their starting lineup, but they just haven't really clicked right now. And I'm curious to see Craig Counsell is just looking and seeing the motor still running in Milwaukee and being like, I might have made a little bit of a mistake. Although that money that he got is probably kind of keeping him safe at night and probably making him sleep.
And Rabbi,
he's like a baby.
If Bellinger comes back sooner rather than later, and if the Cubs elect not to get rid of him because they think they have a shot, and he plays up to expectation, they could quite easily challenge for that wild card spot. They've been scuffling.
Anybody?
They've been scuffling.
Anyone can challenge for that one.
They're scuffling, and you're spot on with that. But they're half things out, and they've been without their best hitter for over, one of their best power hitters for over a week. We'll see.
One of the things that I find.
Where they're going to go? Buy, sell, buy, sell.
One of the things that's going to be very interesting going into all of this trade deadline stuff is if you're not literally the Rockies or the Marlins in the NL and maybe now the Nationals, if you want to make the playoffs, gotta stay pat. So I'm curious to see if there's some teams that are thinking like, why do we need to be the third wild card spot? All that guarantees us is literally maybe no games. Maybe just literally 3 games and no extra attendance. Just saying. Although again, we had 2 wild cards make the playoffs last year and make the World Series last year. So we'll see what happens. Anthony, who are you looking at on the disappointing side?
I'm staying on the National League side, and yeah, you're right, Rabbi. I'm looking at the wild card standings of the National League.
Yes.
Yeah, it's literally like literally only Washington, Colorado, and Miami. Well, Washington is only 6 games out. So they're still reasonably in it. But Colorado and Miami are pretty much done. But everyone else is a crapshoot at this point. And obviously that leads me to my pitcher not exceeding expectation, or at least pitching well below. It's Blake Snell of the San Francisco Giants. And you know what?
Who's his agent, Anthony? Who's his agent who kept him out and had him completely miss spring training? Who's that guy again?
That'd be a
Scott Boras. That's right.
He's a Boras guy. Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? It's 2 Boras guys that the Giants have that started late And we talked about Matt Chapman earlier this year. He leads the team in batting average, 235, which just tells you everything you know about the Giants and
That
everything
dude
you know
needs to change his
about the
scenery.
about the National League wild card, the fact that they're only 3.5 games out into the All-Star break and 3 games under 500 to process. But get back to Blake Snell. Now, $32 million, a bargain price of $32 million. You two can have a starting pitcher who is literally a Cy Young winner and a guy with a penchant for walking literally everyone in the lineup. He's 0-3. He is 0-3 in going into the All-Star break. An ERA of 6.31. It was close to 8 up until his last 2 starts. His only 42 strikeouts, a whip of 1.43. Get this. When you look at, he's averaging more than 20 pitches an inning. 84% rate of stranded base runners last season. If you thought that was unsustainable, here's the reason why. In 2023, he had 202 base runners in his pinch, only 32 scored. This season, 47 base runners, and almost half of them have scored. 22 have come around and scored. And here's the thing too, and I think we talked about like the local teams maybe added Blake Snell, and I said one of my red flags of Blake Snell was his penchant for losing control and walking hitters. And it gave me a flashback of the one game the Mets did take from the Padres 2 years ago in the wild card series. Was the game that Blake Snell started? That was game 2. And he walked hitters literally in every inning that he pitched. He only pitched 5 innings, but he had a runner on base in each inning, in part because he cannot keep control when he started missing the strike zone, and that has been a bit of a problem. But also, when you compound Robbie Ray not being available, Alex Cobb not being available until after the All-Star break, question marks whether or not Jordan Hicks that young prospect would give you help right away out of the gate. You were hoping to get anything from a Cy Young Award winner who, by the way, didn't start pitching until late March after he was signed. So obviously he was already behind the 8-ball. And his ERA at one point was at 11.57, to the point where he was booed out of against Minnesota and Toronto, respectively. He's still like the Blake Snell of old, the Blake Snell that won a Cy Young, the Blake Snell we saw in the 2021 Series bubble, in that World Series. But he pitched 5 innings. He's not going more than 5 innings in any of his starts. But at least in the last 2, he's been able to get more outs. He's had more command in the strike zone. He pitched a no-hitter into the 4th inning against in his last start against Minnesota. So for the Giants, they're hoping that he's turned the corner somewhat to look like the Blake Snell of old. Because if he's not, and Cobb and Ray are not 100%, or don't even look close to the cells, the Giants are a world of trouble, particularly with a lineup that actually made the Mets look good early on. When your best hitter's batting only 235 in that big ballpark, you got problems. And Blake Snell is not helping the Giants' cause, particularly with that contract that he got so late in spring training. And yeah, it's just been a mess so far and by the Bay.
Yeah, and the Giants are another one of those, teams that are, that are on the fringe of wild card contention, do seemingly by the numbers could have a shot if certain guys, round into form after the All-Star break, and that's the thing is like, is it actual hope or is it false hope for a lot of these teams? I think the trade deadline is going to be pretty interesting this year.
Or it may be pretty inactive and they're going to try to pick everything off of the White Sox, which is a possibility for all of this stuff. By the way,
checks the garage sale first, Rabbi.
You might get all you need at the garage sale, and then you can just drive back into the house.
What I'm saying.
At this point, I think the White Sox are putting up the naming rights to Guarantee Rate Park, whatever the hell that ballpark is named these days.
I think it's still Guaranteed Rate Park.
That's probably the only thing right now that's guaranteed about the White Sox is the name of the stadium.
By the way, with all of that, I'm surprised you didn't mention Cody Bellinger is also a Boris client, by the way. So every Boris client, everything that we've mentioned today about Boris clients has been bad.
And wait. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the other pitcher was Jordan Montgomery, and I believe after Montgomery got his deal done, he fired Boros as his agent.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And he's actually had a good season, by the way, even though the Texas Rangers, my team that's disappointing, has not had a very good season. Ironically enough, if you combine the two teams that made the World Series last year, they're under 500. They're 95 and 99. I'm sorry, 95 and 98. So they would be a 3-game under 500 team. It kind of shows that you need to build off some of these things that you do. And unfortunately for both of those teams, specifically the Rangers, they haven't really done that. No. And for the Rangers, it's kind of puzzling. Corey Seager is an all-star. Marcus Semien is an all-star. Kirby Yates is an all-star. They all played on Tuesday night. And Adolis Garcia, who didn't really have a good home run derby. Don't watch his performance. I thought he was going to do really well. That's just me. He is also still a very, very consistent player. They even have a farm system that has 2 of the top 6 farm system players in all of Major League Baseball. And what you have is a 46-50 team. They are 6 games behind the Seattle Mariners in the AL West. In the AL West, 4 games behind the Houston Astros in the AL West, and they just took 2 of 3 from them in Houston. They made significant investments in the payroll. 8 players with 8-figure salaries. 4 are having at least a $26 million per year season in terms of salary and what and what you have right now. They've had some good performances from Max Scherzer since he got back from the DL. Ironically enough, on June 23rd, the same time that we mentioned with the Mets bullpen kind of
imploding,
going into its a little tailspin. And he's had a 2.96 ERA and a 0.99 whip, but his average fastball velocity is now down to 92.7. His strikeout rate is at 21.7%, which is down 12.4% from its high of 34.1 in 2021. Jacob deGrom ain't coming back to this team till at least August. And remember, he's 36 years old and he's already had a second Tommy John surgery. If they become buyers, they're going to need to talk about their outfield. Their outfield has been very injured as it goes along. So the question is, do you want to do more with Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford? Can they help your season? Because right now the Texas Rangers are just in a position where they're kind of floundering. And if you're talking about a team that may want to end up selling at the trade deadline, it might actually be the World Series champions from last year. And I could easily see that. But great stadium. Loved watching the All-Star game. Went a little too into that cowboy theme, not going to lie. I was not the biggest fan of going for it. I'm curious to see what they do when they're Atlanta next year. Probably something worse than that. I would imagine it would be a very big Republican fest over there. That's it. Last mention of politics the whole entire night. I'm done. I'm done. I didn't know what to say, so I said that. Probably a bad idea. But so right now, Texas needs to just kind of see where their season's going to go, because right now it's kind of in a zone, and you don't really want to be in that zone. I feel like a lot of teams are in that zone.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of time left before figuring out what they need to do. That's all I'm saying.
2 weeks, literally.
Yep, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks on the show, by the way. Get to it.
A World Series hangover. Go to both teams. Normally, it's the loser of the World Series that kind of suffer the next season hangover. But yeah, the Rangers. Hey, look, if they could get those robots that were serving food during the All-Star break at Globe Life Park to kind of fill into the bullpen, I think they're taking 100%. But yeah, I'm looking at like I said, I got the standings in front of me. There's a lot of middle of the pack. So what exactly are we doing? Like teams that I would put in the category of what are we doing? Are we contending? Are we rebuilding? What is that? What's going on here? And
Yeah.
and the American League, like I said, it's pretty wide open. But the National League is just such a picture perfect of mediocrity.
Yeah.
That it just like if you're buying from the Oakland Athletics, you're probably doing the players a favor by getting them the hell out of that team.
Yep.
And what ways to one. But then you look at like Colorado, maybe you find something there. Miami. By the way, the fall of Tim Anderson has to be examined big time.
Oh yeah.
Because I have he was literally playing the World Baseball Classic just a year ago, and a two-time All-Star. Remember, he hit the walk-off homer in the
Field of Dreams game.
Field of Dreams game against the Yankees, and he's not even on the team right now.
Nope.
So just like I said, baseball, but we still got we still got about what 92, 91 games depending on what team you are still up in the season, and we still got the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be a incredible roller coaster in the second half of the season for a lot of teams.
Yep.
As a famous pundit said, that's baseball season. All right, for Jay Kaplan, Anthony Strait, and Lizzie Freckles once again making an appearance. He's for hire, Mets. Please, you can use him. Iggy is going to be useless in about a month, all right? Lizzie Freckles, 4 mascots. For all of those people, my name is Steven Rabinowitz. You know the socials on the Sports Line. Next week, by the way, we will preview the Summer Olympics in Paris. If you've ever seen that volleyball court, by the way, and how it looks, it's amazing. Amazing. So if you ever do, just get a chance, check it out, and then comment back to me next week. I want to report on it. All right. You know the socials by now. YouTube.com/OnTheSportsLines live demand. Facebook.com/OnTheSportsLines live. Why did I mess that up in my one thing that I need to write in? And Jay, where can you get those? Yeah, I know. Jay, where can they get those tweets?
To this show tomorrow. We also post some interesting sports nuggets that we think are worth your time. I put up a link today, actually, All-Star game related, to a terrific piece that Doug Haller of The Athletic did on the 25th anniversary of the 1999 All-Star game in Boston. Ted Williams, who'd been away from Fenway pretty much, he retired from baseball after managing the Rangers in 1972. He threw out the first pitch. He was surrounded by 31 of the greatest living ball players at the time who were in attendance that night. MLB was promoting its best players of the 20th century, surrounded by them, along with all of the AL and NL All-Stars. It was one of those beautifully unscripted moments that caused us all to channel Brad Pitt's Billy Beane. I said it earlier in the show, but I'm going to say it again. How can you not be romantic about baseball? The piece is very worth the read. Check it out.
It is. However, I do want to say I will try to find an article about the 25th anniversary of the Yankees blowing off Jim Gray later that year for the mistreatment of Pete Rose after the All-Star break. I would love to read an article like that. Athletic, you have a few months. Write that now. All right. See you next week on the Sports Lines. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone.